Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this session of Quispamsis Council meeting for June 17th, 2025. And I'd like to point out that our Director of Engineering, Gary Loge, is with us virtual this evening, as well as Deputy Mayor Scryer. So welcome, Mr. Loge, welcome, Deputy Mayor Scryer. May I have an approval of the agenda, please? Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Luck. On the question, please vote. Motion carried 7-0. May I have the land acknowledgement, please? Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Worship. We would like to respectfully acknowledge that Quispamsis exists on the traditional territory of the Wolastoqey, Maliseet, and Mi'kmaq people whose ancestors, along with the Passamaquoddy tribes, signed peace and friendship treaties with the British Crown in the 1700s. We would like to take this moment to pay respect to these elders, past and present, and to the descendants of this traditional territory. And may we remind ourselves of the important work we have before us tonight. May we make good decisions without prejudice or bias and always in the best interests of our community, which we are here to serve.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. I have a few remarks this evening. I would like to open my remarks tonight by recognizing that the month of June is Pride Month. We are so happy to join communities across Canada in celebrating Pride Month here in Quispamsis. I was very pleased to attend a reception for the Greater South Anglophone education leaders who went above and beyond to host a school-based Pride Week, promoting the importance of community value, kindness, belonging, empathy, respect among our local children and youth. These values align with the values of Quispamsis, where we foster an environment of a sense of belonging for all. Quispamsis is an inclusive community. You are welcome here. June is National Indigenous History Month in Canada, a time to honor the rich history, heritage, resilience, and diversity of our First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. It is critically important that the story of our collective history continues to be told and that we continue to learn from decisions made recently and decades ago. Our history is very important to us. I invite you to invest some time, not just this month, but throughout the year, and learn more about our community, our country, and its Indigenous history. And I'd like to thank the grade 2 and 3 classes from Quispamsis, Lakefield, and Chris Saunders Memorial Elementary Schools for helping to make our town beautiful by planting marigolds at the Arts and Culture Park. I had a wonderful time making new friends and planting flowers with the children on a bright and sunny Wednesday last week. I also had the pleasure of planting beside my granddaughter, who is also a grade 3 student. These were the flowers that began as seeds planted by the same students at our greenhouse earlier this year. Thankfully, the rain came early, so the plants were ready to bloom once they were in the ground. In all, more than 6,000 marigolds were planted in front of Town Hall, along the main paths of the Arts and Culture Park, and along the path between the Comex bus shelter and Firefly splash pad. Thank you to our staff who assisted the students with planting and for the snack and barbecue that they held for them after. It was a terrific morning. It was enjoyed by everyone. Here at Town Hall, the makeover is almost complete. Contractors are putting the finishing touches on the newly installed siding. This building also got a new roof late last year, so we can weather the storms and conditions for many years to come. The changes are part of the town's asset management plan, and they look fantastic. I love the colors. The next time you're at the Arts and Culture Park or in the area, be sure to take a peek at our new look at Town Hall. And a special thank you to our facility staff and community services departments for all of their work on these upgrades. As we get to the end of the school year, I want to remind you that the 97.3 The Wave Pool is open daily for member, toonie, free, and public swims, along with aquasize, swimming lessons, and much more. Visit our website, quispamsis.ca, and go to the 97.3 The Wave pool page for the latest pool schedule information. Also, what has become a favorite, the Firefly Splash Park, is now open daily from 10 until 8 p.m. Please remember there is no parking around the park on Firefly Crescent. Parking is available at 15 Equality Lane near the Wheels and Ramps Skateboard Park, with Firefly just a short walk through a bit of an enchanted walkway. Join your friends and make new ones at Firefly Park. Lifeguards will be staffing our beaches at Gondola Point Beach and Meenan's Cove Beach from 12 noon until 5 p.m. starting this Saturday, June 21st. As our warm weather amenities continue to open up and more people get out to enjoy various activities, I want to remind motorists to please use extra caution on the roadways in our communities and adhere to reduced speeds in all subdivisions. Speaking of the end of the school year, I wanted to congratulate our local graduates and all students on another successful academic year. Proms and graduation ceremonies are happening all week, including KVHS graduation ceremonies tomorrow. It's an exciting time for students as one chapter closes and a new one begins. The East Coast Games are back in the St. John region Friday through Sunday of this week. Organizers are expecting about 3,000 athletes from across Atlantic Canada to converge on our region during the event. Quispamsis is proud to host some of the softball, swimming, and lacrosse events. Last week, I presented a check to the KV Girls Softball Association through the town's sport hosting program in support of their under 11 AA and under 11A girls tournaments. Spectators are welcome, so please get out and cheer on your home teams and any friends and relatives who may be coming from away. Visit eastcoastgames.ca and find them on Facebook for event schedules. CAO Watson and I met last week with Secretary Wayne Long's advisor, Don Darling, to inform our new MP's office of concerns that we have here in Quispamsis with which the federal government may be able to assist. We are happy to have Mr. Darling represent MP Long and convey our messages to our new representative in Ottawa. I recently attended the annual general meeting for the KV Oasis and listened intently to their year in review and outlook for the coming year with projects and financial needs. KV Oasis has made such a big difference in the lives of young people and families in our community. Quispamsis is proud to support KV Oasis and its mandate. Next week in St. John, I'll be attending the Municipal Sector Breakfast at the annual meeting of the provincial and territorial ministers responsible for local government. This is a way for regional mayors and ministers from across Canada to highlight issues relating to local government and share best practices. And June 25th is Airport Workers' Day in Canada. It's a day of recognition for the people who keep Canada moving and to celebrate their vital contribution to our communities and our economies. We have a wonderful airport just minutes away from Quispamsis. I want to encourage everyone to use YSJ, the St. John Regional Airport, for your air travel needs whenever you can. And I want to give a quick shout out to Faro, our sanitary waste collection contractor, on the great work they do for the thousands of homes and residents of Quispamsis. I've heard several words of appreciation recently and wanted to pass those along. If you have any questions about your waste and recycling collection needs, you can reach Faro at recycle@faro.ca. Several councillors spent 5 days in Ottawa, attending meetings regarding the challenges and successes and garnering new ideas and best practices of municipalities across Canada. The meeting of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities takes place every year in a Canadian municipality, providing enriching opportunities for elected councillors to learn more about municipalities on a larger scale outside of their region. And finally, as this is the last meeting of council before the end of the school year, I want to wish everyone a very safe and enjoyable summer. Thank you. Looking for a disclosure of interest. Seeing that there are none, we are going to move now to presentations. And this evening we have Greg Cutler and David Kilpatrick for Pro Kids. If you would like to come to the mic. Welcome, Mr. Cutler. Welcome, Mr. Kilpatrick.
I am on? Okay. Thank you very much. So, my name is Greg Cutler with the Pro Kids of Greater St. John. Thank you, Mayor, Council, Senior Leadership for having us here tonight. The goal tonight is to provide a general overview of the program, some updates from 2024, and some activities that are happening now in 2025. First, I want to start what Pro Kids is for anyone that didn't know. Pro Kids is positive recreation opportunities for kids, a charitable service operated by the City of St. John that matches children in financial need with organized, registered recreation activities. So Pro Kids assists families with the associated fees. Each year, hundreds of local children are given the opportunity to participate in the activity of their choice because of Pro Kids. Pro Kids is a confidential service available to all children in Quispamsis, St. John, Grand Bay, and Rothesay. All administration costs are covered by the municipalities, allowing 100% of all funds donated to go directly to assisting children in our community. So I do have with me a document here. It's actually our 2024 impact report. I'm just going to go through that a little bit to kind of guide the conversation tonight. Again, I'll talk about 2024 and then a little bit about 2025 as well. Again, first I want to start off by thanking the municipality. Based on the partnership with the municipalities, we are able to provide a service that 100% of all donations go back to the children, which is huge. We really appreciate the support over the years. First update for Pro Kids would be staffing update. Myself, the manager of Pro Kids, I started in September of 2024, and Hillary Pino, who's also our program coordinator, started about this time last year. So we're both fairly new to the program, but getting our feet wet, and we hope, have things going in the right direction. So that's the staffing update. The other part of that equation is the advisory committee, which Dave Kirkpatrick, who most of you know, is here representing that group. Dave is the Quispamsis representative on that committee. We have 15 very committed, enthusiastic individuals to make up the advisory committee. But not only are they, enthusiastic and supportive, but they're also forward-thinking and they're leaders in the community. So we appreciate having that group with us, kind of lead the way. So we hope with the new staffing and the advisory committee, 2025 and beyond will be continue to be positive for Pro Kids. We are now in our 23rd year of Pro Kids. 2024 is our 22nd year. Just on the 2024 year, I wanted to highlight a few numbers. First was the total number of applications. So in 2024, we processed 484 applications for recreation activities. And I should say recreation activities can be sport, art, culture, anything that's sort of a recognized recreation activity. So 484 applications processed. For us, we typically average about 1,000 or 1,200. So one point I wanted to make tonight, we were lower than usual because from January to September of 2024, our program actually paused. Before my time, but they realized that money was going out faster than coming in. So they realized for financial viability of the program, needed to put a pause, make some changes to make sure that we are healthy going forward. So during that pause, there was finance department, finance committee, mayor and council, our advisory committee, created a financial audit for the program. 27 action items came out of that, recommendations. Everything from oversight, updated policies, procedures, application process was updated. So happy to say that all 27 of those recommendations have been implemented and have gone over really well. sometimes too smoothly, but it's been really nice that way. And leading from that financial audit, we are currently doing a program review. We have actually contracted RC Strategies, who I think has worked here as well, to do an audit of our program and evaluation. Started in April, going till September. We don't want this to be a document that sits on a bookshelf somewhere, hoping September sort of aligns with the budget season so we can move on it quickly. The evaluation, we're proud of our program, but after 23 years, we just want to see what we're doing well, opportunities for improvement. So we continue to work with Megan and her team at RC Strategies to keep that going forward. In 2024, 59% of our applicants were first time. Just wanted to point that out. That does kind of coincide with a lot of our conversations with families. In the past, many families had said that they were able to afford recreation activities for their children. It was tight, but they can make it work. The last few years, with the rising cost of gas, rent, food, everything, we're seeing more families turn to us that aren't able to afford it anymore. So in my mind, the status quo won't work anymore. We need to start raising more money, helping more children. So that's sort of our goal for 2025. In 2024, total money raised was $175,000. In 2025, by contrast, we're hoping to raise $300,000. Obviously, a significant increase in funds raised, but we're hoping with the help of Dave and the advisory committee, myself and Hillary, and some community partners that $300,000 is attainable. And at that point, we'll make that goal this year and then sort of rise by maybe 15% year after year to sort of keep up with the times, basically. Happy to say, based on that number of 300,000, we did have a successful Pro Kids fundraising dinner. Thank you for Councillor Bigger for attending. I haven't told anyone in my staff yet, but I think we raised just north of $40,000, which, I've heard of other fundraising dinners maybe raising more, but we're happy with that. It was a very fun, comfortable event, very smooth, so we hope we can build on that going forward. We also have the Dickie Crosman Golf Tournament coming up in July 12th. So I say Pro Kids has been here. This is our 24th year, or 23rd year. Interesting, the Dickie Crosman Golf Tournament, if anyone knows that tournament, it's also been around for 23 years. So to say that Pro Kids sort of lives and dies by that tournament is sort of not an overstatement. They have raised almost $500,000 for the program over the time. And it's maybe urban legend or myth, but I think the first couple of years they were averaging $400 or $500, but they just kept at it and kept getting more and more popular. So, this year they're hoping to eclipse that $500,000 mark, which is it's awesome for us. Great guys to work with, if anyone knows those guys. Also wanted to discuss quickly, we at our program are very lucky to have an anonymous donor who does not, obviously wants to remain anonymous, does not want their name shared, but what they do ask is that every time I have a podium, just sort of mention that he's made a $50,000 contribution for 5 years, so $250,000 overall. He just wants to point out that Pro Kids is an entity that people, if they have charity in mind, that are certainly able to use that money and put it to good use. With that, I think I'll leave the last minute and 50 seconds for questions. I think that's it. We're really happy to be here. Next year, we'll do a better job of getting here in the first quarter, and also do a better job of working with the recreation staff here to make sure that we're kind of collaborating and sharing ideas, just to make sure that we're just all in line a little bit more regularly.
Thanks so much, Greg, and thank you, David, for being here. It certainly is a community of people, and I know that the board always has people whose hearts are in the right place, and it's wonderful to see so many children being assisted and being able to be involved in the recreational sport or music that they would like to be able to take part in. So I guess my only question would be, and I know without putting you on the spot, how close are you to your 300,000?
I would say pretty much daily. I'm looking at the accounts. We are on track. We know the summer is kind of going to be busy for us with the dinner. Also have a few other initiatives on the go in the golf tournament, and also having staff in place. We're able to apply for more grants and foundations, things like that. So cautiously optimistic.
Perfect. Happy to hear that. Councillor Bigger, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you very much for bringing forward the report here. I just wanted to say congratulations on a great night at the fundraising dinner. It was really fun to be there, and I love the graphics. I don't know who does the graphics for Pro Kids, but I really love the colorful nature of it. It's got a great youthful kind of vibe about it, and I thought the same. I thought the stage decor was excellent at the dinner. The lighting, everything was very well put together. But I thought the place where I saw the most creativity at play was how you guys kept squeezing us for money over and over and over in every possible way. I'm proud to say that thanks to MLA Aaron Kennedy pushing us all, our table won the bid to go to the buffet first, which proved to be a very important win for us. But no, there was just a great spirit of generosity there, I thought, at the dinner. A lot of fun doing it, so many interesting ways. And I've never seen a chocolate cake go for $250 before, but that's an impressive cake. Maybe that was Councillor Dave Brown with his auctioneering skills or something. But so anyway, congratulations, and it was a real pleasure to take part. And as you know, as one of the partnering communities supporting Pro Kids, it's great to be part of it from my perspective, and I had a great time. So thanks so much, and good luck.
Thank you very
And even
much.
Dave Kirkpatrick looked pretty good that night. He dressed up pretty nice, I thought.
If I could just add really quickly, I kind of let Councillor Brown and Councillor Stewart kind of take the lead on the auction, so that was very fun. Thank you very much for being there. And I'm going to take that comment about the graphics back to Hillary Pino, our staff person. She really has turned everything around. Like everything we do is sort of intentional. We try to have it playful, but not too childlike. So it's really been a pleasure again to work with the advisory committee and Hillary. So all those little pieces, we're trying to make just everything a little bit better.
And it is for children after all. Deputy Mayor Scryer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, Dave, for being our rep. We certainly appreciate your volunteerism on behalf of our town. One of the, I heard you say, like with rising rents and food costs, the yas are even more. But one of the discussions we had at the council table a few months ago, and I wanted to share with you, was we had a professor of recreation present to us her thesis about how underprivileged children are not able to access facilities. They might get funding from an organization, a great organization like yourself, to play hockey, but then comes the question of how they get to the rink or how they get to that karate class. Transportation, we discussed that earlier in our council earlier today about transportation, and it is an issue, but it's not only the transportation, it provides a sense of community with that child, that maybe they're being picked up by a team player's father or a team player's mother or a group. There's a carpooling going on. So I just bring that to your attention, and that you might want to, and I'm sure our staff can give you the name of the professor that spoke to us. Her name escapes me right at the moment, but I think it would be a really good talk for you to have, or to have her come in and talk to your committee about the challenges that face not only financially, like getting the equipment or the membership, but the challenges after that. So I just put that out there for you, but thank you for all you do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will
Thank
take that
you.
name for sure.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Scryer. Councillor Olson, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Congratulations on everything that you're doing. The old saying, you build it and they'll come. And I think that interest and enthusiasm which you're exhibiting and the kids with all their smiles and everything like that, and a lot of kids involved. You've attracted a serious donator, a donation of $250,000 a year. That's something to be very complimented on, really. And but the individual or individuals that are doing that have recognized the enthusiasm and the interest that the kids are exhibiting too. So, congratulations and good luck with the rest of your efforts.
Thank you very much, Councillor.
Thank you. There is a motion, please. Councillor Donovan.
Thank you. I would move that council acknowledge their support for Pro Kids and thank Mr. Cutler and Mr. Kirkpatrick for their attendance and contributions. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Bigger. On the question, Deputy Mayor Squire, is your hand up? No, you're good. Please vote. Councillor Luke. Motion carried, 7-0. Thanks very much for being here this evening, gentlemen, and good luck with your summer endeavors.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Have a good night. Item 5B, 2024 Financial Audit Presentation. Teed Saunders Doyle and Company in attendance, Mr. Peter Logan. And Chelsea, is Chelsea on?
Sends her regrets. She's at another meeting.
Okay.
So draws, I won.
Okay. We won. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you.
I'll leave the.
All right. Well, thank you, Mayor O'Hara, for having us in or having me in this evening. So we met yesterday with finance and we went through these statements in quite a bit of detail. So this evening I'll keep my my comments sort of an overview. Anybody has any questions, feel free to jump in there. So basically our job as the independent auditor is to come in and look at the town's books and records, perform our audit procedures, just to ensure that the accounting records for the town are in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. Those are the standards that all municipalities and governments in Canada are required to follow. So we do have a clean opinion. We didn't find anything that would make us not sign the statements, so everything is in accordance with the public sector accounting standards. As note, these statements are consolidated. So within these statements, we also have, it's roughly 60-40. So Quispam is 60%, Town of Ross is 40%. So we've got the police, the library, and the fire department. Their figures are included in these numbers as well. And that was part of the, when we converted to public sector accounting standards, that was one of the things that we had to start doing, bringing them in. So it's a really gnarly spreadsheet, but I won't bore you with the. So as far as the statement of operations for this year, for 2024, revenue in the town was at, total revenue was at $40,577,000. With included in that would be your property tax warrant. It was at $32,562,000 this year, up from $29 million last year, or around 12%. With respect to your expenses, so total expenditures within the town this year were at $35,229,000, which gives us a surplus for the year of $5,347,782. Now, with respect to that surplus, that's what under the public sector accounting standards. So things like capital equipment purchases, paying down your long-term debt, transferring money to your reserves, those are not considered expenses under public sector accounting. They would be under the funding model, which is something that we still track, and that's really what you set your property tax rate on, is cash in and cash out. So with regards to that, within the general fund this year, your funding surplus was at $72,939, and in your utility fund, it was at $88,523. So we still look at those just in case, in terms of the fund, because what happens is in 2 years' time, those surpluses come back into your budget. so they become an income item. With regards to capital, it was a big year on the capital asset side. There was $12.3 million worth of capital additions. In that, roads and streets were the big one, $5.8 million there. $1.1 million machinery and equipment. And there was sewer treatment facility, $2.5 million spent there. So it was a fairly active year on the capital side. The other thing too, with respect to the surplus, the town received about $1.1 million this year in capital grants. So when those grants come in, those are treated as revenue in the year you get them. Even though you're taking the money and what you're building with them, you're going to expense those out over a number of years. So there's not sort of that even matching there. So there's always, that's why in the towns we typically see surpluses for that reason. Big part of it anyway. As far as debt goes, long-term debt at the end of the year, you were at $18,647,000. Those will be your long-term debentures, compared to $19,197,000 last year. I think there was one new debenture. Yep, one new debenture this year for $1.75. Yeah, and there was nothing that was in your general fund, and there was nothing in the general capital. Or sorry, that was general capital, nothing in your utility fund. Also, with respect to the reserves, so the town maintains reserves. So you have general operating reserve, you have general capital reserves, utility operating, and utility capital. So that's basically money that at the end of the year, before December 31st, you can transfer funds into these reserve accounts for future projects. So this year there was just under $1.5 million transferred in. That would also include interest earned on the bank account. In your reserve funds. So the reserve funds at the end of the year, they went from $4.995 million up to $6.455 million. So that's money that's there for future either operational needs, or the big one is capital. You have $2.5 million in your general capital, and there's another $2.1 million in the utility capital reserve. One other thing that we always like to look at as well is just debt service ratio. So that's basically if we take your debt principal payments and your interest payments as a percentage of your operating budgets, in your general fund, that debt service was 5.7% this year. It was 6.4% last year, so it's down a bit. Now within your general fund, sort of the higher end of that debt service would be 20%. So meaning if you got up near 20, then that would mean that you're borrowing too much. But it's 5.7, well underneath that. Within the utility fund, the debt service this year was at 23.5 compared to 24.6. Now with the utility fund, the upper limit's 50%. So you're still well within that, because utility generally is a smaller budget, and it's also very capital intensive. So you tend to have a lot of debt related to your utility. That's really it for my presentation. Just to speak to the audit, I handed Leah, so there's a governance letter that we do issue out that just basically stated that we didn't have any great cooperation with staff. We didn't find any material weaknesses or errors, so there's no sort of what we call a management recommendation letter. We've been doing the audit for quite a while, so anytime we have done that, it's been sort of implemented, so that's always good. And this year too, with the staff shortage you had in your accounting department, just a big hand to Leah and her people, because we did get the audit done in a reasonable amount of time. A lot goes into this. It's a big entity, so it's $40 million. So thanks, Leah, and thanks to the other staff members in the accounting group. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much, Peter, and certainly acknowledging our finance department, and Leah certainly stepped up to the plate when the need was there, and we couldn't ask for any more, because I went in a couple of times when I saw the spreadsheets, and I thought, oh my, like this was just overwhelming for me, and Leah was into areas where she hadn't been a player in the past, so she certainly, as I say, stepped up to the plate and helped out you and Chelsea and your team, and we're very proud of that, so thank you. Deputy Mayor Scryer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would move that Council accept the proposed 2024 audited financial statements as presented by Teed Saunders, Doyle and Company.
Thank you. It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Scryer, seconded by Councillor Olson. On the question. Seeing there are none, please vote.
Councillor Thompson
Are you good, Beth? Yeah.
and Councillor Miller.
Councillor Miller, are you good? In favor?
Okay, thank you.
Motion carried 7-0. Thanks very much.
Thank you
and,
very much.
Tell Chelsea we said hello.
I will, thank you.
Item number 6 is public hearings. There are none. Item number 7, minutes of previous meeting. Councillor Olson, please. Oh, your light was on.
Sorry.
Minutes of previous meetings. Councillor Donovan.
I would move that the minutes of for the May 20th, 2025 regular meeting be approved as presented.
It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Thompson. On the question, please vote. Councillor Donovan, your light is on. Motion carried 7-0. June 5th, 2025 special meeting. Councillor Donovan.
Thank you. I'd move that the minutes for the June 5th, 2025 special meeting be approved as presented.
Moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Luck. On the question, please vote. Motion carried 7-0. Number 8, unfinished business. Oops. Unfinished business, tender number 2025 TQ04-8, wastewater pump station number 4, Gondola Point Road. Approval for consultant to proceed to Part C. Staff report from Director of Engineering and Works. Mr. Loge.
Thank you, Your Worship. As Council will recall from our last meeting where we awarded the tender of the wastewater pumping station, we advised Council that would be coming back with approval to proceed to Part C, which is the actual administration of the tender construction period and preparation of reports and record drawings. So this is really consistent with the Part A and Part B that we've already passed. It is the same process that we use for all our capital projects that have a 3-phase aspect. We want to come before Council to ensure that we're okay to proceed with as we move along. The consultants have advised us that the offset fees that they've provided for us in their initial RFPs are still valid. We haven't changed the scope of work at this time for this particular project, so it's staff's recommendation to proceed to Part C of this particular tender.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Scryer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would move that Council direct Englobe Engineering to proceed to Part C, contract administration and inspection period services of the Gondola Point Road wastewater pump station, upgrade Phase 3, Gondola Point Road Station 4 for the upset fee of $140,000 plus HST.
It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Scryer, seconded by Councillor Olson. On the question. Seeing there are none, please vote. Councillor Olson. Anyone not showing up? Motion carried 7-0. 8B, Gondola Point Road Wastewater Pump Station Number 4, Force Main. Staff report from Director of Engineering and Works, Mr. Loge.
Thank you again, Your Worship. Through you to council. After the tender award for the wastewater pumping station, we had advised council that our consultants are making some recommendations, or would be investigating some recommendations with respect to the force main that serves this particular pumping station. They did prepare a background document, some cost estimates. I've included some of the main highlights in my report. Essentially, that we're dealing with a 50-year-old force main on a new installation. The concern would be that now when you have a force main that's already been repaired, it's a brittle PVC product in the ground, and we're going to be expecting it to last another 50 years to match up with the extended life of the new pump station. We had some concerns with respect to the viability of that type of a procedure. Talking to the consultants, while they haven't designed the new lift stations to increase pressures or volumes, we're actually looking to reduce some of the volumes by reducing some of the infiltration and inflow of the catchment area. There are some concerns that since the force main has had a few repairs, since the force main is a material that's no longer used under pressure, they had their basic recommendation to the town was that's in our best interest sooner rather than later to repair or replace the particular force main that we're looking at. From an economies of scale perspective, and when we looked at it, there's a couple of things that would pop up. That is, if we chose to delay even a year, what we would be doing is we'd be digging up the particular area twice, and that's not generally a good procedure. The other thing is that was quite evident in the last few years that we've seen is that it's sort of like the planting, the best time to plant a tree is now scenario. The best time to do work is now. We're not going to see the same type of unit pricing at this particular stage of construction if we delay it a year or two. So with that in mind, we had discussed with our treasurer and our CAO an approach that would leverage some of our current financial capacity in our capital improvement plan that we've got with the former gas tax. It's a 2024 to 2028 program. And one of the program's items that we've identified for the future years, we felt that could be pushed out a year into a next program so that we could leverage some funds and bring it forward. In addition, we looked at some of the current items on our capital program in the utility. We felt that we had done some substantial work that didn't use all of the funds that were required. So we had some savings there. We had some projects that when we did a secondary assessment, they could be looked at in a future budget year, whether it went to an operation side, we could adjust the costs accordingly. So when we took these into account from a staff perspective, it appears that we've got the financial capacity. We've got the opportunity to do it now. What we would likely look is to, if council is in agreement with the recommendation, is rather than make this an addition to the current contract, is actually create a brand new tender. And what we feel is that we'll benefit from some unit pricing because in our initial investigations with our consultants, they're advising us, and my staff is advising me that there's not a lot of pipe jobs currently out there, and there may be a few more opportunities to get a reasonable tender pricing. So at this time, what we're doing is staff is making a recommendation to mayor and council that we proceed with the installation of the force main for wastewater pump station in this construction season, that we adjust our capital investment plan, the schedules, and adjust the annual allocations so that we can draw from unexpended utility operations or budget reserves to come up with the approximately the $2 million that we need for the continuation of this particular project. So for that, I've got any questions of council, I can try to address them for you now.
Thank you, Mr. Loge. Councillor Olson, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would move council direct Englobe Engineering to prepare tender documents for the replacement of the Gondola Point Road WWPS force main in the 2025 construction season. accounting staff to file a revised Canada Community Building Fund 2024 to 2028 capital investment plan, adjusting project schedules and annual allocations, or draw from unexpected utility operations budget reserves as required for the approximately $2 million for the lift station overage and force main addition.
It's been moved by Councillor Olson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Scryer. On the question, I was speaking today with Deputy Mayor Scryer, and she had attended a session in Ottawa at FCM, at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, with a panel of 5 engineers speaking about this sort of thing. And one of the things that they said is that when you have new equipment, new project going in to upgrade your old equipment, and you have a force main that is part of the old equipment, then you're going to eventually end up with trouble. So this is, from what you had said, Deputy Mayor, it seems like this is an issue where there are so many, there's so much infrastructure now across our country that requires replacement, that this is something that many communities are have upon them to do. So certainly understood that we are not alone in this. On the question, please vote. Motion carried 7-0. Thank you. And we are looking at item number 9A, correspondence from Councillor Bigger, request for update of Rainbow Crosswalk on Randy Jones Way at Qplex. And are we going to Director of Engineering for that? There was a package, I guess. Okay,
Sure, thank you, Your Worship.
uh,
Unless Councillor Bigger wants to speak to it first, I can speak later.
I'm going to go to Mr. Watson. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Councillor Bigger and other members of council. Thank you for the request, first off. I think a clear demonstration of Quispamsis' ongoing interest in being a truly inclusive community. A couple of pieces just to round out our collective understanding of where things stand with the crosswalk now. The crosswalk has been refreshed already using the traditional colors for 2025 under our usual updating process. So it is looking good, but it's looking traditional in that it does not include yet the additional colors that are now chosen to represent the broader community. So certainly there is opportunity to complete the work. It can be done. It would be done on top of what has already been done in 2025. It does require ordering of specialty paint in specialty colors that then would be applied on top of what's there now to make it reflective of the updated logo. Again, it can be completed, and the total cost is not a significant one in that but it will be $4,000 to $5,000 in order to complete the work, in addition to the staff time that would otherwise be spent in other areas. But certainly, if it's as council's wish for us to proceed, it can be done. In terms of overall timeline, it would be a likely July exercise, not a June one, just by virtue of the timelines that we're up against here now, and just with respect to ordering of the supplies and making sure that we have the stencil in order to do it well. So just thought I'd offer that additional context, and after which we're happy to take council's direction.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Councillor Bigger.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to CAO Watson for some of those practical issues there. Certainly, those are important things to bear in mind, and I'm grateful. I was grateful to learn that, no surprise, the Works Department was right on top of their annual freshening up of the crosswalk, and so I'm grateful for that. And I think that it's representative of the great work that they do, and the fact that this remains an important statement in our town of welcome and inclusion. And it was June of 2021. I think it was the very first motion that I ever made in my first term here on council to introduce this into our town. Not surprisingly, it was a unanimous passing by the council, and because of its visibility, of course, high traffic, used by people of all generations. Down at the Qplex, Randy Jones Way was a perfect spot for this. Continues to be a spot where lots of people gather, and even young people make use of it often for graduation photos and so on. So it has special significance often for young people, this statement of welcome and inclusion and equality for all people here in our town. I guess I just wanted to say that, it's probably not earth-shattering, I suppose, in one sense, but there has been great evolution in the last number of years around the sensibilities expressed related to sort of gender issues, sexuality, and inclusion along these lines. And so I just felt that it was probably the right time, especially Pride Month. I can't think of a better time to revisit this and to consider sort of updating what was a great statement in the beginning and say, let's expand on this and incorporate the colors that have been added to the traditional rainbow flag to also include the trans community. And it's often referred to as the Progress Pride flag, which is the rainbow. I'm sorry we don't have it on the screens for anybody who might be watching, but I think we're all familiar with probably how it looks, the rainbow flag with the pink and blue and white and brown and black sort of triangle off to the left side of it, which is just to make a special sort of endorsement of welcome and inclusion for people of the trans community as well as people of color living within the LGBTQIA plus communities. So I just think that that is a better reflection of the welcome that exists in our town for all residents. And I think it is a statement about our hopes that we continue to be a safe, inclusive, welcoming community for all. And I do appreciate the work of the Works Department. I don't expect we have a Progress Pride flag street stencil hanging on the wall anywhere. So it is going to take some time, of course, to get that all done. I expect we'll have to white out the one that's there and then sort of, get the proper colors to be able to do that. It keeps getting more colorful, which is sort of nice, I suppose. But it's not a hard thing to do. It just takes some time. I think it's well worth the relatively small expense. And so I just wanted to put that forward for everyone's consideration. I'm certainly appreciative. There's a collective spirit, I think, of inclusion and welcome here in our community, and I hope that that will continue and that this will continue to be a statement that we can all be proud of when we see it here in our town. So perhaps I'll just make a motion that the town of Quispamsis affirm an updated rainbow crosswalk design to incorporate the Progress Pride flag model to expand our statement of welcome and inclusion for all members of the LGBTQIA plus community, and the staff be dispatched to incorporate this design as soon as possible over the summer of 2025. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Bigger, seconded by Deputy Mayor Scryer. On the question, Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to you, thank you, Mr. Bigger, for bringing this up. I was just looking through some photos online, and it is a crosswalk. And I was noticing most of the ones online, they actually have a white border all around it. So it's just be not cognizant, but I think when we put it in there, make sure that it kind of delineates it a bit better. But I did see some without it as well, but I went through a lot of them just to make sure that it's still a crosswalk. People know exactly where to go through. So no, that was my only comment on that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Councillor Luck, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just in light of the information that CAO Watson shared, I think thank Councillor Bigger for bringing this to our attention, and I think it's a fabulous idea. I'm just wondering, because we just painted it, would there be any appetite to build this into our budget and do it first thing next year versus painting over a freshly painted Pride crosswalk that we already have. I'm trying to be a bit fiscally prudent in terms of, it is $5,000, but it was $5,000 unbudgeted dollars and just staff time, when I know staff are very busy this time of year, and I don't know if there's any appetite. I definitely agree with the sentiment, and I love the idea, and I'm completely for it. But in light of us just painting the other one, I'm just wondering if there would be an appetite to build it in and plan on doing it as early as possible next year when it needs to be refreshed. So anyway, I'll put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Luck. It was moved by Councillor Bigger, seconded by Deputy Mayor Scryer. Is there any consideration, Councillor Bigger, for? No, I'd like the motion to stand. Okay, thank you. Seeing there are no more questions, comments, please vote. Motion carried 7-0. Item number 10, bylaws. Proposed animal control bylaw amendment to implement online dog licensing. Staff report from Director of Engineering and Works.
Thank you again, Your Worship, through you. As previously mentioned to council, we are in the need to refresh our animal control tender. It's going to be due for reposting so that the September award date could be in place prior to the release of the new RFP. We wanted to gauge council's interest in, at the very least, positioning the tender so that any proponents or interested proponents could quote using a online animal licensing as part of their package. Currently, we do take animal licenses at the town hall, and under our current RFP and bylaw, there's no provision that would allow us to even consider an online license. So what we wanted to do was at least initiate council discussion with respect to the pros and the cons of allowing staff to prepare an RFP that had an online component to it. We investigated with our solicitor any issues that he would have seen. From the legal perspective, really the main concern was when the time comes to negotiate a particular contract with a successful bidder for the animal control process, that we would want to verify some of the terms and conditions of that particular contract. Because we have the capacity in our bylaw to the clerk, under the clerk's signature, to allow for licensing from another person's quote unquote, so designated by council. And there are things with respect to if there were fees or fines that were required by virtue of a court action, how would that be addressed? The second component that we did a little bit of research on was the number of animal licenses, current licenses that we held that would be impacted. That being, the town did introduce a few years ago lifetime licenses, along with the 3-year licenses, so longer term licenses, and residents had invested in their licensing, and I provided in the report a comparison of some of the costs that we had in our bylaws. Now, similar communities have, what they've done, if they've gone to an online licensing, have actually opted to, I would guess you could say, prepay or pay in advance, up to 3 years of a lifetime license for the resident. And it's a value that is more than the lifetime license, and it covers 3 years of the animal license. That was just arbitrarily chosen, and as I mentioned in my document, I think if council was interested in doing that, we could choose any number of years from a lifetime licensing perspective. But what it does do is it reduces or impacts potential revenues. The cost of prepaying for online licensing is around $5,900, $5,600, and it's a revenue that comes into the town that is a minor stream, but it's one of these things that the opportunity is out there if we wanted to choose it. When we look at staff time or administrative time, yes, they do use the town services at the front counter. It is a time constraint. I think if they were not doing animal control licenses, obviously the time that they would spend there would be filled doing other things. So I don't know if you would see a, pro con time savings versus revenue savings from a staff perspective. But I think what you'll see potentially is an online opportunity that will allow residents, maybe they're more likely to register their pets online than they would making the trip down to the town hall, things of that nature. So really at this stage, it's to identify the issues. If council's still in favor of when we do the RFP to include that option in there, or if council wishes to make the statement now and they wish to say, yeah, let's go to a full online option, that opportunity is there now. We wanted to give you the background for discussion at this stage of the game.
Thank you, Mr. Loge. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to Mr. Loge. I'm just trying to understand. So I think a few things. I think having it online is a way better option. We're going to get more people actually register their pets. So for sure. The monetary thing isn't, to me, it's not significant. We just want to make sure they're registered and we know. I guess I'm a little confused of those that have lifetime licenses, why we would pay whatever funds for those. Those should just be grandfathered. They've already paid. We've already given out the license. So I don't understand why we would pay the $5,000 to increase them for 3 years. Or DocuService, sorry, I got to look at the right number. DocuPet, they should have an option for lifetime at $100 themselves. So I'm okay with the money going to the SPCA, but I'm confused why for those that have lifetime licenses and the town has collected, why we'd be paying money back to DocuServe for that. I think those ones are just, people got the license, we got it registered. And yeah, the rest I think online is better for everybody. We'd actually get better adherence, but I'm just confused at why we have to pay DocuService for the ones we've already collected. So, and why there's not a lifetime for DocuServe. Thanks.
Through you, Your Worship. Well, essentially what we're doing is we are buying licenses through this online licensing, whether it's DocuPet or another one. So even though the residents have paid the town, we don't have an online registry. So they're offering a service to manage that online component. So that's why we still have to pay for that particular service. Because even though we've taken the fees for the lifetime, we're not an online registry. So that's the side of it. With respect to whether or not they have they currently our purchasing agent in doing her investigation believes that they only have a maximum of a 3-year license term. Now we can go back to them or go back to the successful bidder when the time comes for RFP and see if they will offer a lifetime option and what that cost might be. But currently we're basing it on similar communities that have this particular program. And at this time, we're only aware of that particular online servicing offering a maximum of a 3-year licensing option. But as far as, like I said earlier, as far as why we would have to pay, because they would not be registered otherwise if we don't enroll them in the online option.
Thank you. Councillor Luck, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Mr. Loge. I'm still confused. I have almost the exact comments that Councillor Miller had. I appreciate that we want to eventually move to online, but I think we've kind of sold a service to residents, and I can't find the number. For some reason, I thought it was like 100 and some people we're talking about that have lifetime pet licenses. Did I make that up? I thought I saw it, but I can't find it. 147? So we're not talking...
149.
Okay, 149. So we're not talking about a whole lot of residents, but we've already sold them a lifetime... Okay, so yeah, a lifetime license. Like these pets, they are time limited in a sense, sadly. But I guess I'm just wondering, even if they're not online, why can't we grandfather those people in, and just put them in a file somewhere, knowing that there's 149 that they've already paid for the lifetime. They're not online, but moving forward, anyone else that's registering their pet is going to be online and we'll be doing it that way. I just think that you'll upset a lot of residents by going back and saying, we sold you an online or a lifetime membership or a lifetime license. And now, because we've chosen to do something different, we're revoking your lifetime license and now
Yeah.
you need to do something else. So anyway, I guess I kind of feel similar to what Councillor Miller had said, is I'm not sure why we wouldn't just grandfather that 149 people. And then again, starting from scratch, moving forward, go online and have a file with 149 residents, with their pet names until they no longer exist.
Yeah, so the issue here is we have sold 149 licenses. They are paper records. Essentially, we'll call them paper records at the town hall. If we go to a third-party animal control program, whether it's SPCA, St. John SPCA, or whatever, they are now managing the licenses with a totally different provider. So even though we can say, well, these 149 people are registered with the town of Quispamsis, theoretically they don't exist in the online process. So now, in order to lodge them with the online process, there's a fee associated with that. And what the communities that we've seen and our purchasing agent has investigated, what they've done is they've I don't think they've had a lot of pushback, but they have agreed to a 3-year purchase. So what that does is it provides the pet owners with some level of comfort for that 3 years. Now, again, we can say is it a 3 years, is it a 5-year purchase? DocuPet at this time, as an example, we're only aware has a 3-year term. The other thing too is, and you touched on a little bit, is there should be some due diligence on the town's part to say, okay, even though somebody's purchased a 3-year license, is Fluffy or Missy still alive, 4 years later after they purchased this? And we've got to do some level of investigation. So there's a little bit of legwork still required. And what we wanted to do was really just gauge council's issues, and this is one that we can investigate a little further as we move forward in the program. But we wanted to give you as much information as became relevant after speaking with with our solicitor and our purchasing agent from a financial and legal perspective, as we look to prepare the RFP for issuance, so we can get a September startup on the September contract.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Thank you, Mr. Loge. I guess just a follow-up question, and based on my math, it looks like over the last 3 years, we have just over 200 residents register their pets. So I feel like that identifies a bigger issue because I could name 200 people I know in Quispam that own pets. Yes. So I feel like moving to an online system kind of penalizes the people that are true to the process now, because we're saying, well, now we're going to take away your lifetime license when we have, I would say, 80% of the residents that don't register their pets already. So anyway, I'm just kind of voicing my concerns with the process.
Definitely. And you hit the nail on the head. Every household in the community, I would wager that you're probably 75% of the households, and we have some pet that should be licensed, whether it's cat or a dog, that we're nowhere near compliance when it comes to animal control. And really, it only becomes an issue when pets are at large. And we've seen through our previous efforts in animal control and with the NBSPC officers, we've done a better job of outreach, communication, enforcement, and compliance. So then the question becomes, if they're not registered or if they are not licensed, is it an issue? But if they get lost, it is an issue. Or if something happens, we need to determine ownership, it becomes an issue. And that's the convenience factor of licensing. With the online license, the service provider does not have to come to the town hall, does not have to look at our records. It's their own independent. They access these things online themselves, a greater global database. So it's essentially, I won't say hands off, but it's a less involved process for the town. And again, you're correct. People have paid the $110 or what it was for the lifetime license, and now we can say, well, sorry, but you're only eligible for 3-year license because that's as far as this current licensing program goes. If we can negotiate a longer term, maybe the town says, well, we'll pay for a 5-year, and or renew after 3 years. But I think the case is for us, just to, and again, a couple of counselors have mentioned it, it's getting more people to license, and it seems to online is the way to go. But we just want to make provision for that in the RFP at this stage of the game.
Thank you, Mr. Logier. Thank you, Councillor Luck. Deputy Mayor Squire, please.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Yeah, I think it's the online. One of the things that comes to my mind is, there are expenses that we do pay for pet owners, and not so much cats, but mainly dogs. We have a dog park, and then we have the summer park. We fence off part of Gondola Point Beach. I don't know what it would be interesting to know. I think I heard the figure one time before, what we spend in bags for a scoop and poop. And so we do provide a lot of services for our animals, and we do have animal control when there's disputes within with dogs at large. So I just see this online as a movement as being advanced for the town to have this. I would leave it to the staff to be able to negotiate something with this lifetime and see if it can be prorated. Somebody that's got a lifetime is now every 5 years, this is their rate, we're only talking 149 people or licenses. It's not a lot of licenses. So I'm sure that something could be worked out, but I'm really in favor of letting the town staff go ahead with this and see what they can flush out and come back with it to us. Thank you.
Is that your motion, or are you making
Yes,
a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make that motion. I'm just bringing it up here. That council authorize staff to prepare the necessary administrative and bylaw wording changes to allow for the introduction of online pet registration in the next animal control service RFP. If online registration is an accepted option for the next animal control services provider, the town will subsequently pay the costs of prepaying an additional 3 years of online coverage for all lifetime members, and the remaining years for those who have purchased a 3-year license. Now, I might want to amend that a bit, so that would allow the staff to come back to council regarding the lifetime membership. I think that still has to be flushed out, obviously, by the conversation.
Your Worship, if I may, maybe the appropriate motion maybe to stop after that first sentence, do the administrative changes for the next, and then leave the second sentence out. And then, because if that's the case, we still have to come back to council with bylaw wording and subsequent negotiation. So I would suggest, to meet the intent of the deputy mayor's discussion or motion, just the first sentence would be appropriate from a motions perspective.
Deputy Mayor, are you okay with that?
I'm fine, Worship. Yes, please.
Clerk, are you okay with that? Yeah. Able to fix that? And moved by Deputy Mayor Squire, seconded by Councillor Donovan on the question.
I have a question.
Councillor Donovan.
Thank you. And I believe, Gary, you'd mentioned it, but I just want to make sure. So it would be $5,200-ish if we're paying for the 3-year extended warranty or whatever it is that we're doing here.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So we're paying the $5,200, but is somebody, whether it's a summer student or whoever, calling these 149 people and saying, is your cat still alive? Is your dog still alive, before we hand over $5,000 and there's only 10 of these 149 actually still alive? Does that make sense? You might have mentioned it, I just can't remember.
Yeah, that's exactly what we would have to do, is 149 lifetime licenses, and it's no use paying a lifetime license if Missy or Fido is not alive. So that would be a staff function to call and do those arrangements.
Thank you. It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Squire, seconded by Councillor Donovan on the question. Please vote. Motion carried 7-0. On to item number 11, new business. 2025 drainage improvement projects, tender number 2025-TQ05-9, verbal update from Director of Engineering and Works. Mr. Loge.
Thank you. Through you again, Your Worship. The drainage improvement project tender was opened last week. We had a budget of $200,000. The lowest bid was just slightly over $300,000. So what we've asked the two bidders that we received to go back, review their unit pricing, and we changed the scope of work. We removed two projects that we felt were of lower priority that we could push it to the next year. In doing that, though, what it does is we wanted to give both of the bidders the opportunity to adjust their unit prices or keep their unit prices so that we could do that. We've asked them, we gave them a week to adjust their pricing. That was last Wednesday, so that means this Wednesday would be the information coming back to us. Obviously, we couldn't make a recommendation to council tonight, so we wanted to gauge council's interest in us having an electronic poll if the results come in, or if they wanted to have another face-to-face. If we recall, the last time we did the electronic poll, council, the flavor of the intent was that if all of council was okay with having an electronic poll, that was fine. But if council wanted to discuss it a little bit, we wanted to be upfront with council, have a face-to-face. So we just wanted to let council know that there is opportunity for a report to come in the short term, and if they're okay with an electronic poll or not. We anticipate that the adjusted pricing and the scope of work change will come in and meet our budget. So it'll essentially just be the decision of which contractor to make that award to. So we just wanted to make council aware of that at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Loge. Councillor Donovan, please.
Thank you. I mean, there's no motion here, but I guess I would move that staff send out an email poll when we receive more information.
It's been moved by Councillor Donovan for staff to send out an email poll when they receive more information. Councillor Luck.
Oh, I was just seconding the motion.
Seconded by Councillor Luck. Thank you. On the question.
On the question?
Yes, Deputy Mayor Schreier.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm clear on here. I would like to have the information on the drainage projects and what's involved prior to the vote. So if I could have, I think it would help us with if we had the staff report as what's being taken out, or are all the projects going to be completed under the new tender agreement?
Through your worship, our staff report as part of the electronic poll will identify the initial tender, the initial scope of work, and then the changes that were made and how that's reflected in the new. So you'll have the old information, the results, the new scope of work, and the new results as part of that document to make your decision when the time comes for the electronic poll. So we will make sure that you have all that information, your worship.
Thank you.
So that being your worship, I probably I may want to have a discussion on it. I don't know until I see the staff report whether or not a discussion is warranted or not. So I'm sort of at two minds here, but I probably would want to have a discussion on it.
So, Mr. Loge, am I correct in saying that what was proposed, when the RFP went out, we had budgeted X number of dollars, it came in $100,000 more, and now you are tapering the work request to meet what was budgeted?
That's correct, your worship. And in doing so, normal purchasing process is with the two bidders, we can't just automatically assume that they'll honor their pricing by changing some quantities. So what we're doing is by reducing quantities, we have to give them the opportunity to say, okay, well, if I'm not doing this particular project, I had counted X, it's going to take me less time, so I can give you a savings, or it's going to take more effort. So it's going, so we have to give them the opportunity to revise their unit pricing. And so we've based our calculations that on, at the very least, if they retain their prices, taking out projects that we feel will fall within our budget or meet our budget application. So to the deputy mayor's question with respect to the scope of the work or the type of work being done, the drainage project tenders is about 7 small projects all grouped together. So we're not shortening work. We're taking a drainage ditch, for example, that would have to be piped in because operations staff felt that it's safer to pipe it in or something of that nature. And we're saying, okay, well, we can shift that to the next year's program. We've done that every year. We do adjust the drainage project listing just for this purpose. Unfortunately, this time the tender came in slightly higher than we anticipated because we would have issued the tender without 1 or 2 of these projects if we had known that the unit pricing was going to be so high.
Thank you. Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to members of council, and wanting to respect the balance of Mr. Lozier's operations and the timelines associated with the construction season, but also the notion of email polls and how do we handle those appropriately. I think there's some conversation to come under our revision to the procedural bylaw, but and to respect the deputy mayor's comments as well, to think that if council is okay proceeding with an email poll, but with the understanding that upon receipt of the information to support that email poll, you either require more information or disagree, that we automatically call a special meeting for the purposes of advancing the file. That would be my recommendation, Your Worship.
Thank you.
I'm good with that.
Okay. On the question, it's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Luck. Please vote. Motion carried 7-0. Under new business, 11B, Council final acceptance, Highlands of Queensberry Phase 5, Stage 2, staff report from engineering technologist. Councillor Olson.
Thank you, Worship. Whereas the developer has satisfied the minimum requirements in accordance with subdivision bylaw 035 and the developer's agreement, it would be appropriate for council to grant final acceptance of the Highlands of Queensberry Phase 5, Stage 2 subdivision. In addition, we recommend that council approve release of the $19,226.40 bonding to 613086 New Brunswick, Inc.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Miller. On the question. Councillor Thompson.
No.
No? Okay. Please vote. Motion carried 7-0. Item C. We're on D, right? 2025 sport field treatment proposal. I was on C.
For Phase 6.
Oh, yes, okay, sorry. Council final acceptance, Highlands Queensberry Phase 6, staff report from engineering technologist. Councillor Donovan.
Whereas the developer has satisfied the minimum requirements in accordance with subdivision bylaw number 035 and the developer's agreement, it would be appropriate for council to grant final acceptance of the Highlands of Queensberry Phase 5 Stage 2 subdivision. In addition, we recommend that council approve release of the $19,226.40 bonding to 613086 New Brunswick, Inc.
It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Bigger. On the question. Mr. Colburn.
Through your worship, I think the motion referred to the previous one, Phase 2, Phase 5, Stage 2 instead of Phase 6. Thank you.
We're good. It's been corrected. You okay with that? Or would you like him to read it?
No,
No, we're good. On the question,
Who seconded?
who was the seconder to that, please? Councillor Bigger.
Can we just pause for one moment?
Sure. We're just going to pause for a technical challenge here.
Just the.
Yep.
Oh, quick.
There's an error on that one.
Manira?
Yeah, this staff report was incorrect. So. the-
Gary's up there.
Do you want to speak on that one?
Through you, your worship, yeah, there appears to be an error in just the
There
document.
appears to be an error here. Could we just listen for a second?
So what I would recommend is that the motion be that council would approve the release of, or final acceptance for phase 6 and the security be released in accordance with the what's been held for phase 6 be released. Just whatever that amount is, we would have no reason to keep it, essentially.
Through you, your worship, the motion was incorrect, so I'm going to reread it with the appropriate phase and amount. That was, everything else is the same, it was just the phase and the dollar amount, so I'll reread it as it's supposed to have been read. Whereas the developer has satisfied the minimum requirements in accordance with the subdivision bylaw 035, and the developer's agreement, it would be appropriate for council to grant final acceptance of the Highlands of Queensbury Phase 6 subdivision. In addition, we recommend that council approve release of the $29,583.60 bonding to 613086 MB Inc.
The mover agrees with that. The seconder agrees with that. Councillor Bigger, you're good with that reread motion? On the question, Councillor Miller?
That's the motion.
Just on the motion, was it 29,000 or 19,000? Okay, because it says 19 in the staff report. That's why I'm getting really confused. And I know we're going by, yeah, okay, I'm good.
They were just correcting the staff report.
There we go.
Okay,
It should appear correct now.
there you go.
In the
$29,583.60 on the question. Please vote. Motion carried 7-0. 2025 Sport Field Treatment Proposal, 11D, staff report from Parks and Facilities Manager. Councillor Olson, please.
Thank you, Worship. I'd move council approve the 2025 sport field treatment proposal as proposed, and going forward, allow staff to treat town sports fields when required.
It's been moved by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Luck. On the question, Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Your Worship. But just on the question, how much, I know we're using our existing budget, but what do we think we're going to be spending this year? Like, is it all the fields? I know I've read maintenance field central. Oh, I'll let you go. Yeah. Okay, $9,600. Okay, perfect. Not perfect, but I mean, it's cheaper than, I forget what we paid for sod one year, but it was 75,000. So yeah, it's a better deal. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Thank you, Ms. Parton-Dixon. On the question, Deputy Mayor, did you have a question?
No, Your Worship, but I do have a technical problem, so I vote in favor, but I keep getting kicked out, so, but I heard this one, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. So Deputy Mayor has voted in favor. Please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Item 11E, Fernwood Park Subdivision Phase 7A, Council Assent. Staff report from Director and Planning and Development. And you are representing Fernwood? Yes. Please state your name. Mark, how do you spell your last name?
INALDI.
Thank you.
Thanks. I won't keep you much longer. Just to thank you guys for consideration. All the infrastructure for Fernwood 7A is in place. With assent, we can post the bonding and register and subdivide the lots. This would unlock another 18 building lots and also add 2,075 square meters and land for public purpose.
Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor Scryer.
No, sorry, Your Worship.
Okay. Mr. Colburn, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, Your Worship, to council. I'd just like to bring your attention, it's been included in my staff report. Council may recall that part of this Fernwood development was actually moving with a tree restoration and planting plan, which commenced under phase 6. That extends into this phase, and it will extend through whatever other developments would be undertaken in this particular area. This tree restoration plan includes a variety of different species of trees, but it also puts them on private as well as public property to obviously get some trees back in there. So we do appreciate the developer undertaking that and being cooperative to rectify the unfortunate situation of how it moved forward. But we all learn from it and we move forward, and we're happy to see the development taking place as it has that particular area. It's panning out nicely. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Colburn. Thank you for that, Mr. Fanolsi. And there is a...
I have a question on that.
Okay, go ahead.
My question was through you to Mr. Colburn is about the cul-de-sac. And I'm sure it meets all qualifications, but just getting confirmation on emergency vehicles in the cul-de-sac and how that complies. Thank you.
Mr. Colburn.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, the length of the cul-de-sac does meet the requirements in terms of emergency services, accessing it, as well as being able to access it from the extension of Merlin Drive. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Colburn. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. There is Councillor Bigger.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move council grant assent to the Fernwood Park Subdivision Phase 7A subdivision, so the plan can be approved by the development officer subject to the execution of a subdivision development agreement that incorporates specific terms and conditions to protect the intent of the tree planting and restoration program.
It's been moved by Councillor Bigger and seconded by Councillor Miller. On the question, please vote. Motion carries 7-0. Thanks very much for your patience. Enjoy the evening. Item 11F, Scholarship Committee Recommendation Staff Report from Director of Community Services. Councillor Olson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd move council approve the Scholarship Committee's recommendations as proposed for the 2025 scholarship recipients.
It's been moved by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Donovan. On the question, Councillor Donovan.
Thank you. I won't mention any names because I'm not allowed, but I just want everybody to know that I don't think this council truly has an idea of the amazing individuals we have in our community. You know, I got a chance last Tuesday, try not to cry for an hour and a half, 2 hours, because it's, you know, some of these people have really hard lives, and to, you know, be able to sit there and you know, make a difference in those people's lives was truly an honor, and I do appreciate council allowing me to do that year after year. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Donovan. On the question. Is there a problem? Please vote. Motion carried 7-0. Reports. You have them in your package. No comments on those. No business arising from committee of the whole. Oh,
Net transit.
yep. Business arising from committee of the whole. KV Transit. Councillor Bigger.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to move council approve the proposed KV Go Transit Demonstration Project, a joint initiative between Quispamsis and Rothesay.
It's been moved by Councillor Bigger. Whoops, and seconded by Councillor Donovan. On the question, there are none. Please vote. Motion carries. 7-0. Looking for an adjournment and an adjournment back into closed. Moved by Councillor Olson, seconded by by Deputy Mayor Scryer. On the question, please vote.
So we're not actually closing things down because we have a couple items in committee. Open, yes, yeah. We'll do the open ones first.
So we will remain, just on the question, we will remain in open of committee, and then we will go to closed after that.
Councillor Miller, I just need.
Councillor Miller, did you vote? Anybody else?
No, good.
Motion carried 7-0. Thank you. Oh, yes, of course. We're just going to take a 3-minute bio break. Thank you. 5-minute bio break. Okay, so we are going back now to open committee, and we are doing 4B. Policy review, draft operating and capital reserve. 4B. And I'm going to go to Mr. Watson for this.
Thank you, Worship. Through you, thanks to all of you for enduring till this point of our proceedings where you get a good chance to look at policy. Always a favorite, I'm sure. But you know, we've got two policies to present to you tonight for discussion. This being the first, and it respects our interest in making sure that there's a predictable process to both establish and maintain reserves for future spending requirements. And really to reflect the importance of building some long-term stability for our known projects. And we're doing that with a 10-year planning horizon in mind. So it certainly recognizes that borrowing will still be required. There's no intention here to create an environment where we would not need to borrow at all, but you know, borrowing costs are best avoided or reduced as much as possible. So by building reserves, obviously we would anticipate lowering our borrowing requirements, while also being able to maintain the expectations you have of us for service delivery over the longer haul with respect to both asset management and further development. This policy has been reviewed by the Finance Committee a total of 3 times now, so they've seen it, and each time there's been important revisions and good discussion with respect to the content. We've made adjustments each time. That said, the Finance Committee is comfortable at this time with the content and is recommending consideration of it as it's presented to you tonight, and recognizing it's the first time that all of Council has seen the draft policy. So certainly appreciate that there may be questions and observations. We're happy to take those under consideration and then bring it back for hopefully for approval at our next meeting. If not this meeting, if you're all super enthusiastic and want to get it over with, we can make that arrangement. But certainly welcome the conversation tonight on further details. I don't think I need to walk through it point by point. I might just hit on a couple of highlights as in terms of the policy overall. You see the purpose is fairly clear. It then establishes definitions for each of the reserve funds that the town maintains in both general and utility, and then finally with the land reserve fund. But probably most importantly, we are suggesting that targets be established for all of those, most of, not the land reserve fund, but all of the other reserve funds, to establish a baseline amount to help reduce our short-term borrowing needs, and also to ensure that we have operational stability when unexpected overages, like some of the ones that you heard about earlier this evening, arise. We don't have a lot of latitude for immediate borrowing when we have a short-term need. So having a targeted, defined, and accepted baseline amount in our reserve accounts is felt to be a move forward. And then we're suggesting that we're a percentage of the 10-year projected capital expenditures also be added to the reserve target each year, which definitely does place an expectation on council to make a budget allocation at the front end of budget process for those reserves prior, instead of it being at the back end. And I think that's really the intent here, is to help shift the reserve conversation to be a proactive, predefined one, so that council's comfortable with the process. We apply that math early in the budget process, and then we're left with decisions with respect to both tax rate and what operationally is achievable in that upcoming fiscal year. You may see a bit of blueprint in blue font in the copy that you have. That's reflective of the most recent changes that the Finance Committee had been recommending. And we're just making some editorial changes at this point, I would suggest. There was a question around the investment of reserve funds, and what we're suggesting is that as a general principle, where finance staff determine there to be significant financial merit, because that's not always true, depending on the longevity and the amount of effort required, but that otherwise Quispamsis would invest in secure investments offered by the town's usual bank. And I think we need to get some further advice about the merits and options available to us. Some New Brunswick municipalities do invest their reserve accounts, and we also may want to do so, perhaps when our reserve accounts reach a predefined threshold. So I think that one requires maybe a bit more discussion, but we wanted to include it as an option and recognize that there may be merit there. Then the other piece is just to talk about that council absolutely retains approval authority for this policy, and that through me, we ensure compliance, develop and update the policy as necessary, and present proposed changes to you. That we'd ensure the completion of transfers as we always do through authorization by council, and that required contribution and forecasts are shared with council. So, without needing to belabor the details, I know you've taken a look already, and you're probably thinking, well, yeah, but what does that mean in practical terms? Thankfully, our acting treasurer is here for that reason, as well as many others. So Leah can answer any questions that raises in your minds with respect to the practical implications of introducing a policy like this. So perhaps, though, we could just, Your Worship, I'd turn it back to you for sure, but to invite question and discussion, and Leah may be instrumental in the answers to those questions.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. And just yesterday at our finance meeting, we felt that this proposal does align with our needs over the next 5 and 10 years. We have a strategic plan, and now we are trying to fulfill what our vision is for the town of Quispamsis as we move forward. So with that, I will go to Councillor Miller, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through Your Worship to, I guess, could be our acting CAO or treasurer. I know with the utility operating reserve and the general operating reserve at 5%, those are mandated, right? So that's what it is. And right now we've got our maximum in the general operating is 1.5 million, which we have, and utility operating reserve is only 191,000 because they're smaller. I guess my question is, I got two questions. So where did the 2 million plus 75% formula come up? I couldn't find anybody that does something like that. Because right now we've got 2.5 million in capital reserve, we got 2.1 million in, I just took it from our audit, 2.1 million in utility reserve, so we got 6.4 million there. So if I just looked at capital reserve, 2 million plus 75% of the 10-year average annual projected general capital expenditures, and increased the previous year's products by CPI for New Brunswick, what would that target look like just for general capital? So 2 million plus 75% of the next 10 years, we haven't even gone out 3 years for planning. So what would a 10-year 75%, what would that target look like, I guess? Because I'm really confused on that. And then I'm a little bit confused on where do we say we don't, because we can take the money and invest it in 2 or 3% investments, but we got to borrow a lot of money for the next few years. Do we not do as many reserves and cut our borrowing down at the 4%? So I guess the first question is the capital reserve, what would that 2 million plus 75% look like?
That target's it's about 10 million.
10 million in reserve. So
For general capital.
yeah, so our total budget is 32 million or 37 million now. That would be 10 million plus we got another, and I guess that's where I get confused.
Total, not per
Yeah,
year.
yeah, no, but that's so to get 10 million in reserve, if you're saving to, like in Moncton, they're saving to do the Kodiak police thing, it makes sense. When we were doing the Qplex, it makes sense to put things away. To me, it makes sense to put things away when we're getting the fire trucks. We had to put $500,000 away. I really struggle with building one reserve up to $10 million when we're borrowing $4.5 million a year. So that's where I don't know where that 2 million plus 75% came from. That really confuses me. Like the 5% and the 5% make sense. The other one is projection. But again, if we said we're building something worth $20 million 2 years from now or 5 years from now, I get it, but I personally don't like that formula. I guess that's what I'm saying. So especially if it's 10 million. Thanks.
I'll go to Mr. Watson, Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I certainly will turn it to Ms. Esty to offer some detail here for sure. And to speak to your very first comment, Councillor Miller, 5% is the maximum allowed for in the legislation. So what we're saying here is that we will target to 5%. So just to be clear about that, it's not an up to. It's saying the reserve policy is directing us to try to achieve that 5%. With respect to the target, The 2 million is being recommended to establish the base for short-term, unexpected, we need to fund something now because we don't have borrowing capacity to do that immediately. Some of the discussion earlier today being good examples of that. That, you know, just to establish that base number. The 75% over the 10-year average, it does make an assumption that we're not going to be able to secure more than 25% funding from external sources. And that funding, that number is certainly subject to discussion. So, you know, I think that's the piece that I think warrants council's consideration for sure. And to Ms. Estes' point, the $10 million would be not every year that would be required. It'd be more like $1 million per year over the 10 years. And recognizing we're doing that for the purposes of funding projects that we have identified in the capital improvement plan. So to your point around, you know, what about fire truck or what about another project that we pre-identified? This is building that in. It's recognizing that plan over the course of a number of years and establishing a process to build the reserves toward those planned expenditures. But Leah definitely has better detail than I, and it may even course correct me. So, but probably best to turn to Leah just to be sure.
Leah?
So what exactly is the question? I mean, we're looking at the target is 10. If we're trying to achieve that over 5 years, it would be a contribution of about 2 million per year. The question is, where did the 75%?
No, not the 75%. And so I've been here this is my 14th year, and we usually only we say 5 years out, but in reality, if there's no major project, there's a lot of shifting, right? So, absolutely. I mean, every year there's new ball fields, there's new buildings, there was a Qplex expansion one time, then it was gone, then there was a study for the Qplex expansion. The things that we have never approved of, I guess what I'm saying. Like if we said we want to do something in 2032 and we're building up to that one I get, but when you're saying what is our projected 10-year, I don't know if anybody here has seen a 10-year projection, right?
And
so
these are based off our 5-year, the 5 year.
Yeah, or 5 years. So, but yeah, even the 5 year, I think the Qplex is in there, right?
Yep.
So, but we talked about that 4 years ago, before we did the QMA. We said, is it worth doing $3 million in the QMA? Are we going to do the Qplex? We were told it's going to cost too much to do the Qplex. We got to move an electric line that's $500,000, blah, blah, blah. And 2 years ago, I think Councillor Olson brought up, there was a study in there like 3 years, up 3 years from then to do a study on that. And Councillor Olson brought up, and we could go through the things that said, why are we doing that? We said, we're already not going to do that. And that was like a $750,000 study. So with Rossi now doing the rinks and we've got everything else going on, we've had 4 different studies that said we don't need more rinks here. So that's why when you have something big like that and you're saving up for it, but it hasn't been approved or voted by council, that's my challenge, right? So that's all I'm saying. So.
Mr. Colburn, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, Worship. I just one item, I guess. It's in terms of, the reserves and the need for reserves. And we sometimes think about like the planning for the big purchases or the big ticket items. We also have to step back and think about the asset management. And over the course of the past 5 years or so, we've been all focusing on asset management. And tonight, in terms of the forest main and those types of things, we're getting to that stage where some of that infrastructure is starting to require that attention. So when we project some of for example, when we look at Gondola Point, some of that infrastructure, sewerage infrastructure in the ground is in your 1970s. So you start reaching some of that points of where we need to consider, okay, what is that capital cost to replace that? So it's also establishing that reserve to be able to tackle those items. So it's that balance of maintaining what we have, what will that cost? So versus having those peaks of having to have those high-end expenditures is trying to flatline, keep that flat. This is where a flat line is a good thing. So keeping that cost at a flat line. So that's an item to keep in mind as well in terms of the need for reserves. Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Bigger, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I appreciate the questions by Councillor Miller because it gives an opportunity for discussion here for me to better understand what we're targeting as well. I just wanted to ask if anybody can comment on kind of the degree to which the consideration of strategic planning documents factor in to arriving at these targets. And I also wondered if water infrastructure considerations are part of this as well. I mean, assumedly, we would be, targeting in our budgeting of, for key components related to that. We wouldn't be looking just at reserves for that, but I just wondered if that plays into this, these targets at all. Thanks.
Mr. Watson, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, the short answer there is yes, in that the strategic plan speaks about our need for infrastructure management. So certainly, to Mr. Colburn's point, building reserves in order to address our ongoing critical and routine infrastructure requirements as they age is certainly part of our strategic priorities. So yes. And with respect to kind of the longer term planning here, the targets are intended to, as Mr. Colburn alluded to, even out our spending requirements so that we're not in a cycle of up and down kind of spending requirements that pose some challenges for us. So trying to even that out by virtue of building predictable reserves.
Councillor Olson, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess what I was looking at and what I've viewed over the years too is just a hit and a miss, and it was just having to go back and get the money after the fact type of thing. A lot of the stuff that we don't even know about, but we've got plans in front of us, and we're doing everything. I know Councillor Miller doesn't like me mentioning tax rate, but what other way do we have of getting money? And we've got one of the lowest tax rates around. So what I was looking at was establishing a foundation and then having a plan to contribute something, not gigantic amounts of money, but something so that it would stabilize our needs in the years to come. Because right now it's just all over the place. So I'm just trying to establish a basis to work from, and then add to on a regulated, known figure that we can all sort of agree to. It's not humongous, but it's a pick away at it, starting.
Thank you, Councillor Olson. And Deputy Mayor, did you have a comment?
Yes, please. I just wanted to mention, I really like the idea of doing this policy, and I think that was a general consensus of council, the whole council, when we went into this exercise. Whether how we flush it out at the end is very important. But there's a couple things I wanted to make sure that council was aware of. One was if we decide on a certain amount for each reserve, that will come off the top. That's not after we decide that we're going to do this or do that, or my understanding of it is anyway, that comes right off the top. So if you're, 32 million is after that figure, we're frozen this year, so it should be about the same 32 million. That figure is frozen this year, so our reserves would come right off the top of that 32 million, and then we would work on our budget from there down. So I think that's important to recognize as we look at this policy, it would be the case. And I guess the other would be that, to Councillor Miller's point, is we were looking for a starting point. And that's, it wasn't a figure that, was, to my knowledge, that was, everybody uses this figure. We just came up with a figure and said, let's go towards this goal. It's a goal. So I appreciate council's conversation around that goal, if they think it's too much or too little, and we can adjust accordingly. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And that's exactly it. That's why we're having this discussion this evening, because we know that it's your first look at this. And, it's a fact that our infrastructure is aging. It's a fact that we have applied for certain financial support, whether it was through SHIFT or HAF. And the questions that we've been asked when we've been able to sit across the table is that, do you have skin in the game? And that's very important, because we do have to protect our assets. We do have to preserve what we have, but we can only, we'll go to the water main. We can only fix those for so long, and then if they burst, then we're in big trouble, because then we've got to do a whole lot of backpedaling probably, and then just stabilizing that. But if the 10 million is not palatable, then what is palatable? What can we do in order to have those reserves so that we are viable and that we can move forward? So, certainly open to any of your discussion. Councillor Luck.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess I have two questions. I mean, I guess to answer your question, I feel like, because I know that we struggle now to put money in reserves. So the way I read it, so please correct me if I'm wrong, is that we would take 2 million over the next 5 years to build that 10-year or that reserve. So, I mean, that's a lot of money based on, my few years during budget process. But then I guess something that tweaked my interest is something that Councillor Miller said, is that we basically take this big chunk of money and put it kind of in our bank account, but then we're borrowing money and paying interest on that money. So I think that there kind of needs to be a balance between how much we're borrowing, because if we can decrease our borrowing because it costs us more to borrow, because we're paying interest on that money versus having money that we have sit there and do nothing for us. So I think that there needs to be a balance. So because of that, I do feel like the 10, just knowing that we still have to run the town day to day and all the budget stuff that we're going to have to be paying for, and just inflation and all the increases. And then having that in the back of my mind, where I don't want to be taking 2 million and putting it kind of in a cookie jar, saying for a rainy day, and then paying whatever interest on money that we're borrowing. I feel like there needs to be a balance between that. So anyway, so I think, personally, I think the number is a little high, but I do love the idea that we're looking at this and that we should have definitely more than we have currently in reserve. So when something happens, we have the money there.
So from that, the question would be, what is palatable? What, and as Ms. Esty said, this is what we came up with as a starting point. So that's something that we have to decide. Councillor Donovan, please.
Thank you. $2 million is a lot of money each year for 5 years, I think it is, and then you get to your 10. Is there maybe an appetite to sort of split that, and then maybe we, after 5 years, we have $5 million? That's still I think that's still a good starting point. It's better than having nothing. But I think that's more feasible for us just in the long run, especially if, we're trying to get more things done in the town. But I don't know. I would be sort of open more towards the $1 million a year. I think that's achievable. I think we can do that without causing too much sort of rockiness in the town. But that's my opinion.
Thank you, Councillor. And $2 million on a $37 million budget a year is a lot of money, but it is not insurmountable on $37 million. I'm going to go to Councillor Miller before I go to you. Oh, okay. If you don't mind, I'll go to Deputy Mayor. Deputy Mayor? Your microphone is off.
Excuse me, my apologies. I just wanted to pick up on the aspect of borrowing. And I think it's something that the Finance Committee needs to take back and talk about this. Because I've heard it twice now from around the table about the idea of borrowing money versus having money put aside. So I'm sure that could have been a question perhaps that we could have posed to Mr. Logan tonight. And they'll give you 3-5 different answers, the pros and the cons of each. What's the interest rate environment look like right now? We can't predict the interest rates over the next 5 years, but what are they right now? should we have a borrowing policy? Should we be saying, that we don't want to go over a certain figure when we're borrowing, that we want our reserves and borrowing to be half and half, as my Councillor Donovan said. So I think there's a lot of discussion that we could have around that as well. And thank you for the comments.
Thank you, and I think it would be important for us to go back and, as the Finance Committee, and discuss this before we do make any decisions, and just bearing in mind that the debt ratio for operations this year for 2024 was 5.7. It came down from 6.4 in 2023, and our utility debt ratio, and that debt ratio for operations is under the 20%, pardon me, and the utility, which is at 23.5 for 2024, is down from 25 point, I think it was 19 in 2023. So and that's at we can go up as high as 50%. So that there's a lot of room there is what we were told yesterday in our finance meeting by Mr. Logan. Mr. Watson, please. Oh, do you want to go? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Watson.
Super, thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I just offer thanks to Council for offering the meaningful comments tonight. As we mentioned earlier, this is your first look at the policy in its entirety as a draft. Certainly been vetted by the Finance Committee and wanted to bring to you what you saw before you tonight. We've heard the commentary loud and clear, so I think your recommendation, Your Worship, to come back to Finance Committee is a good one. Just to answer a couple of matters that came up in discussion, with respect to this coming off the top, the answer is yes, it would. And that it would be, that is the first step or one of the initial steps of the budgeting process. This amount would come off the top and then we'd work with the rest. But Councillor Luck, your question and the question of others around striking a balance between borrowing and building reserve, that's language I think we need to think about some more and put something there to that. The one caution I would offer is perhaps there is value in continuing to target a percentage of our planned expenditures versus zeroing in on a specific amount, because that amount may or may not meet the needs that we foresee over our planned expenditures in the capital world over the next several years. But that said, the comments have been fantastic, and I certainly welcome the opportunity to bring it back to Finance Committee for further discussion. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Ms. Esty, please. Yep, you're on.
Don't touch. Okay, thanks. Through you, Your Worship, the 10 million is high, but we have 60 million in spending over the next 5 years, which, as Councillor Miller noted, does include the Qplex. So if that is something we're working towards, then putting a significant amount into reserves is warranted, and looking at the 5-year plan maybe requires a little more attention, a little more detail to what are we looking for in the next 5 years, and I think this reserves policy will help us get there too.
Thank you very much. Councillor Miller, please.
Thank you, Worship. And you had asked the question and what people think is the number, palatable number. So I'll give you my answer for mine. So when I look at what we've been doing, but before I say that, we've also got a lot of other things happening that are not totally in our control right now. We got Harbor Station, new roof. We've got the RSC. We've got what's going on with the Canada Games. We got millions of dollars that are going to be asked from us on top of everything else. We've already increased our budget by over 30% in the last 3 years, so that's why our debt ratio has gone down. We're still farther in debt, but it's a debt ratio. I've been here this will be my 14th year, and I looked at major things that have happened. The biggest major thing that have happened is when we talk about our utility, where we got a $2 million surprise, basically this last week that we just voted on. So if you ask me what I think we should have in reserves, right now we got 2.5 million in capital. Maybe we need 3 million, right? Unless we got something specific. If we do agree that we want to do the Qplex, then we're building a separate fund for the Qplex. For utility, yes, we got to look after things, but is $3 million, again, we have 2.1 there now. Is that the right number? I don't know. Everything else is in a percentage, but what do we foresee that we would need right away? And we have it in the bank, as I think the mayor was talking about, shovel-ready projects. We haven't heard that for the last 4 years about shovel-ready projects, but it'd be nice to say, you know, we're going to help you with water. You got 3 million. We'll put 3 million. Feds put 3 million. Perfect. We'll do all Hampton roads. So for me, we've got the 5%, 5%. And then the other one, if you got 3 million, 3 million, I think that's good. But it doesn't mean you're always there, because we're going to have the times when it drops down to 1 or something happens, it goes to 0, and we can't put 3 million in the next year, right? So that's where it's good. We got the balance, because the finance committee and the council is going to have a tough decision this year, because we already know that assessments are frozen, right? So the assessments aren't going to go up. New builds go up. We got $167 million so far in new builds. It'll probably go to 300 million. So we are going to get increased revenue next year, but the assessments aren't going to move. Some will, because they sold the house, it'll go up, but we're not going to have the 7 or 8% jump or the cap that we did. So for me, it's like we're at 2.5 and 2. If you get it up to 3, I think we're good, because we've got a lot of other things. Because if we just focus on this, that's great. But now we've got extra expenses that are coming our way that, you know, maybe you said in your, I call it monologue, I don't know what, but the mayor's comments was when you talk about, you know, we've had some meetings and hopefully we'll get some support for the housing accelerator, for the things like that. Because right now we're footing the whole bill for the $3 million down Cedar Ridge. We're hoping for the housing accelerator to come in, which will help offset some things, but we've got a lot of balancing acts. And if we do want to talk about the Qplex, we have to have a really good discussion on that, because last time we discussed it, we would have to rip out the tennis court. We'd have to remove a whole new line. We'd get the Parks and Recreation building would be gone. So there's a lot of things, because we ask these questions before we pave the parking lot, before we upgrade it. So there's a lot of discussion to go on before we say we want to pay $19 million or $20 million for. That's what's really pushing up that. I'm sure the capital one's not as, or the utility's not as big, but for me, it's 3 million, and I'll go from there, because I don't know the right number, but I'd like to have money in the bank, but I also know we got to play the balance a little bit. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Ms. Esty, please.
It is just worth noting on the reserve balances, a lot of those are already earmarked. Like, it's money we moved into reserves at the end of 2024 for projects we're doing in 2025. We've got like 963,000 that we're taking out this year. So really, that's not, I mean, it is in reserves, but it's not, it's going to come out.
Oh, that's fair, but I just said 3 million, big number. Right? So,
yeah, but it's not really backup money, because it's already earmarked for something else.
oh, sorry.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Squire, is your hand up there? Your mic is off, please.
I just wanted to bring that point up that necessity just brought up, is that what we do have in reserves is already earmarked. So this policy would be the start of sort of our new reserve fund. We won't be totally starting from scratch, but it'll be close. So this is the only way we can start to build our money for projects in the future, is if we start with a reserve fund. Thank you.
And I would agree with that. And to Councillor Miller's point, you know, we're getting new builds and we're getting more revenue, but bear in mind that with that comes new infrastructure, comes new roads. All of these things that are now part of our asset management are things that we do have to care for down the road, along with our aging infrastructure. I'm okay on a $37 million budget for $2 million a year over the next 5 years. Councillor Bigger.
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to say that I appreciate, I really endorse the value of trying to achieve some predictability in this process. We seem to have been subject to, I think Councillor Olson was pointing this out earlier, we seem to have been subject to a lot of, you know, unpredictability about large expenditures, and we're doing what we have to when we are required. And as Councillor Miller points out, the demands on our budget continue as we see linkages with the Regional Service Commission and related, facilities and projects ongoing in that regard. And so I certainly endorse, I don't want to speak to I think enough's been said on percentages and target numbers and totals and so on. It is certainly a good point that money that sits currently in reserves is earmarked for projects ongoing. So it's not like it's sitting there with no purpose currently, just waiting, and that it would be part of the new strategy. It will be going out. But overall, I just really endorse kind of the effort to create some predictability on maintaining a reserve balance that's healthy, that bears in mind the strategic plans that the council has, come upon and challenged really the staff with, and the many large infrastructure and capital investments that lie before us, utility investments that lie before us in the 5-year strategy, notwithstanding its, frequency to change a bit as we go along. But so anyway, the predictability part of it, I really like. So I appreciate that work.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. I think it's fair to say that we will have staff and the Finance Committee do a little more research and a little more number crunching, and we'll come back with that. So I don't believe there was a motion on that, was there? No. Okay. So we will go to Draft Community Investment Fund, item 4C. And Mr. Watson, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, this is part 2 of policy, June 2025. So bear with me. This one, in fairness, is a bit more time sensitive than our reserve policy discussion, only by virtue of the fact that we normally release our grants and donations application process on July 1st. So we are looking for discussion changes as required this evening, and if possible, we can move to a motion that would allow us to carry on with that schedule. That said, I recognize that what you have before you is an alteration from past practice. Not in that Quispamsis does not continue to make investments in our community organizations and individuals that are deserving, quite the opposite. But rather to provide a bit more structure and, again, to Councillor Bigger's earlier point, predictability to the process that may help streamline the process when it comes to budget time, and frankly also make sure that our decisions are both evidence-based and defendable if ever questioned. So I appreciate the format here is loose because it's not in our official policy format yet. It's just a draft. And I needn't go through the details, I don't think. I'm sure you've all read it. I would get down, though, to a couple of high points, and we'll just touch on them on the way by. In the definition sections, we are suggesting that we add an in good standing section. That comes up a couple of times in the proposed policy to reflect the notion that organizations and individuals who are currently litigating against the town of Quispamsis would not be eligible to receive a donation or a grant from Quispamsis. But that otherwise, the other criteria are listed that also specifically include students, for example, that may not have been included in the policy in the past, at least as an explicit population to consider. The real meat of the matter comes in much the same way as reserves as in terms of an allocation of town funds. Our initial discussion at the Finance Committee, and this too has been vetted through the Finance Committee a couple of times, and we've landed on the language that you see here with one important change, in that the initial discussion allowed for is recommending 0.5 of 1%, half of 1% of our total annual operating budget from the previous year to be budgeted for grants and donations in any given fiscal year, rounded to the nearest 100. But that's not an insignificant amount of money. It's much more than what has historically been provided. That would, on 36 million, that's about $180,000. Whereas in 2025, there is approximately $122,000 requested. So The recommendation of the Finance Committee was actually to round that back down to 0.25%, which would end up being a $90,000 available, a maximum available in budget to on a $36 million budget. So just to give you a sense, and that again, from a budgeting perspective, it adds predictability to that so that we're not needing at the budget discussion time, getting to how much are we allocating as a maximum amount for grants and donations. Rather, it's preset by virtue of the operating budget from the previous year. Qualifying criteria, I think, are pretty straightforward. You see the in good standing showing up here and there. In the exclusions, we've noted that individuals or organizations who have received $5,000 or more under this program from Quispamsis in the previous year would not be eligible. And we recognize that those are far and few between, but if they do exist, they might best be referred to the overall budget process. If somebody's looking for, an organization is looking for more than $5,000 a year on a recurring basis, that might be the more appropriate venue for the discussion. Organizations whose activities breach the New Brunswick Human Rights Act are clearly would be excluded. That's language borrowed from a neighboring municipality. And individuals or organizations where an award would violate our existing conflict of interest bylaws or policies also are cited as an exclusion. The other significant change would be a move to 2 application cycles per calendar year. Because we have heard on occasion that it can be challenging for an organization or an individual that becomes aware in January, for example, they have to wait till July for it to become open, and then it's not until the next fiscal year that the funds would be awarded. So it speeds that up a little bit or shortens the lag time for between application and award. And then we see the process of evaluating applicants is really probably the most fundamental change to what we're suggesting is that we've got some target timelines in here to hold ourselves to. But in collaboration with the discussion at Finance Committee, the notion being that 3 staff members would independently apply a scoring rubric to all the applicants that aren't excluded by virtue of not having met the deadline or that are incomplete. And those 3 individual scores would be added up to create an aggregate score. And then Finance Committee would be provided the total aggregate score for each applicant as well as the total amount requested by each applicant. And then in terms of process, the Finance Committee's latitude would be to recommend award of funds in priority order without the opportunity to hop around within that priority order. In other words, they'd have to start with 1, they have to then go to 2 next, they have to go to 3 following that. That said, if after 3 awards they've expended the available budget, they would reserve the right to reduce the amount of the awards to be able to go further down the list within the available total funds. So that just provides some latitude to the total number of awards made without compromising the results of the rubric. And then finally, recognizing that there may be exceptional circumstances that the Finance Committee wishes to consider, that there'd be availability of one discretionary award to an applicant, individual, organization that they feel is deserving. But if they so chose that they would be limited to $1,000 and that would be reduced from the total available budget for the year. So then there's some sections here just describing the process in a bit more, or how funds are awarded, and then some recognition both of the town and our recognition of the successful applicants, just to make sure that we're deliberate about how we do that, including communication back to those that are unsuccessful. And then as an appendix, you'll see the draft scoring rubric, which you may find a bit daunting. Frankly, I did too when I first saw it. I have borrowed this from another jurisdiction with some tailoring. But overall, when I went through the categories, I really couldn't defend my way out of it, not including some of those all of the categories, in fact, in that they all seem to have merit in terms of their value of assessing an individual or organization applying. So recognizing that if council's comfortable with the content here, our next move would be to adjust the application form slightly to ensure that we are asking questions that guide us toward the rubric and our assessment of the rubric. Recognizing too that we need to be sensitive to the fact that if an individual is asking for $200, we're not expecting a 16-page application. So we need to be sensitive to that in the way that we assess, but still the categories remain important. There needs to be alignment with our overall strategy. There needs to be sustainability demonstrated. There needs to be a work plan or timeline, those kinds of things. So whether that's a one-line answer by an individual who's looking for $200, or it's a 2-paragraph answer with an evaluation criteria that an organization that's looking for $5,000. I think that's where our judgment will remain in terms of the evaluation through the rubric. Anyway, so with that, I know I've probably belabored the point already. It's already 8:30. You're probably anxious to move on. But I certainly wanted to bring this to you with the hope that you feel that it's an appropriate way to manage ongoing donations and grants by the town, and recognizing too that sport tourism is excluded from this activity, that would continue on as a separate ongoing item managed through the Department of Community Services.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Deputy Mayor Scryer, please. Please turn your mic on.
Thank you, Your Worship, and my apologies for not being at the Finance Committee yesterday. So I didn't get to participate in this last conversation, but I do have a few questions, if I may. One has to do with the word students, and I just want to make sure that that includes all students, regardless of where they may be going to school. That we're inclusive to everyone. And I guess the other question that arose from that is why we are excluding post-secondary, such as university or MBCC students. That's my first question. These are for Mr. Watson. My second question would be qualifying. We talk about under that section about recognized sporting organizations. So I thought that would fall under, well, I'm not sure where that falls under, but my point is we don't seem to have groups such as seniors groups that may not be a registered nonprofit, but they still exist. They're still doing swimming classes or line dancing classes, or there could be cultural groups that are teaching French or, Spanish or singing. So I'm worried that we've sort of left that afloat where we just say nonprofit. So that's my second question. And then my third question is exclusion, other legislated authorities, organizations that fall under other legislated authorities. So I would take that to be long-term care facilities, the public school system, organizations like that. They would fall under, they have to follow the rules and regs of the legislation. So those are my three questions, and thank you for bearing with me on those.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to the Deputy Mayor and others in order. Yes, Deputy Mayor, you're right, that we've deliberately not said or specified schools. That said, we did not mention post-secondary education. We certainly could if that's council's wish. It's not what the Finance Committee had articulated so far, but if there's an interest in expanding to post-secondary, that's certainly possible. The intent here is to make sure that we're representing the interest of students who are residents of Quispamsis, regardless of where they go to school. But the expansion that could be considered for post-secondary if that's council's wish as well. With respect to seniors groups or others who may not qualify, or it's felt that they may not qualify under the B not-for-profit or registered charity, student-led, or recognized sporting organization, I think certainly from a staff perspective, we'd be open to expanding that language in a way that's comfortable for council. I would suggest, though, that many groups can demonstrate their not-for-profit status, perhaps without a formal declaration of that. Just by virtue of an affirmation of some kind on their application that states that they're not seeking to make profit by virtue of their activities, such as the groups that you mentioned. And then finally, your last was other orders of government that have a legislative responsibility for funding, and you're quite right. We would not anticipate funding programs that are really the responsibility of the Department of Health or the Department of Education or Social Development, for example. So thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Luck, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just first off, kudos. I think you've done a fabulous first draft of this. I know that I had a lot of questions during budget planning, so you've addressed a lot of them, and you even used a rubric, which I was really happy to see. So again, I thought it was a really great start. I guess just a few questions or comments to Deputy Mayor Schreier's comments. Like I too was kind of wondering, and maybe it's because when I think of not-for-profit, like I'm thinking like KV walkers or like organized groups that are community groups. But if I read that, I might think, oh, I don't qualify just because we're calling it not-for-profit. So I don't know if we could maybe add like not-for-profit community groups or something so people wouldn't think I'm not a registered not-for-profit. Yeah, something so they, because when I read it, I almost think of like a health charity or something that they're still not-for-profit, but they're kind of an organized versus maybe like, you know, KV pickleball or things like that. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that. And then my other question would be is, and again, I think, you know, it's very thorough. I love the transparency. It's very credible. I love the idea that you've added the PR so we get some just kudos for the town in terms of supporting some of these organizations. Will the applicant have access to the rubric? So will that be part of a policy or somewhere? So when someone is filling out the form, it's very transparent how someone is scoring so that when they're filling it out, they have that feedback in terms of what exactly we're looking for. Thanks.
Mr. Watson, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Councillor Luck and others. I agree. I really like their suggestion about adjusting the language on the community groups just to make sure that we're inviting those that may not have a formal not-for-profit status, but that are operating not for the purposes of making a profit. So we can work with the language if that's council's wish to make sure that we're quite explicit about that. That's no problem at all. With respect to providing the rubric, if that's council's wish, I certainly, from a staff perspective, I can say with confidence we'd have no reservation in sharing the rubric. I think it's an important demonstration of transparency and to share with folks how they will be evaluated. So that's not a problem.
Thank you. Councillor Donovan, please.
Thank you. I do agree with the conversations around, you know, the non-for-profit wording. I think that's important. I really like the part there in the evaluation of applicants, the very last point about discretionary award. I think that's super important because, you know, it's just sort of like when we do the scholarship committee, we have sort of a runner-up in that, you know, we pick the 3 people that we would pick, but we'd also have a runner-up that, you know, may not have outshined all the other people, but they're still very important and they're sort of closely behind. So I do think this sort of mimics that, and it's a good idea to at least have an option for the finance committee to actually pick somebody who may not excel in every single thing, but was still a very good choice. My question is, you know, there's a part in here about if you've received individuals or organizations who have received 5,000 or more from Quispamsis in the previous year. Where that messes with my mind a little bit, and I've seen too many numbers in this week, but I'm just thinking about, you know, during our budget processes when we have organizations like you know, the Dalhousie Medical School, and then you have organizations like KV Oasis and other one of those organizations that they're reoccurring every single year. And typically, you know, the KV Oasis, I believe, was, you know, 7,500 or whatnot. So this now, from reading this, from my plain English, it excludes them. You know, if we've given KV Oasis $5,000, for example, it would exclude them from coming back the year after and actually asking for any more money. So we could not do a reoccurring, they would not be able to apply every year. It would be every other year if we've given, is that correct?
Mr. Watson?
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Councillor Donovan and the rest of council. Yes, in that if an organization is regularly receiving more than $5,000 a year in today's world and they are continuing to apply in the current in the same way, they would be excluded on an alternating year basis. That said, our recommendation would be that for those organizations like the ones you mentioned that are receiving regularly more than $5,000, that the more appropriate venue for the conversation is under the regular budget process, so that we, instead of treating them as a grant or a donation, move it into a budget discussion, separate and aside from a grant or donation.
Deputy Mayor, is your hand up, or is that from last time? Okay. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Your Worship. This, what is it called now? Community Investment Funds, which was grants and donations. This entire policy is what council asked for over and over and over. Because I know the Finance Committee, when we came forward with our recommendations, the question was, how did you figure it out? What did you use? Well, now we have something, and it's very clear how it's going to be used. So this is really not satisfying, but this policy is coming forward from all of the issues that came away from the Finance Committee, just basically sort of being forced to pick and choose. So this is much clearer and will work much better.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Donovan. Oh, just 1 second, please. Did you want to speak?
No, Councillor Donovan.
Councillor Donovan.
Thank you. I guess I'm wondering if it's appropriate for me at this time to, make a motion that council accepts, and with the understanding that staff is going to go back and make slight changes to the wording regarding, nonprofit use, because it does sort of seem like we're all in agreement that this is what, at least from what I've heard, that this is sort of what is happening. This is what we're going with, but it was just a few words here and there that I think staff is
Yeah, I think it's more house cleaning.
quite
than,
capable of cleaning up on their,
or
yeah.
housekeeping, yeah. Madam Clerk, are you okay with that? That Councillor Donovan, if you want to make the motion with the idea that those housekeeping that Councillor Luck had mentioned, and as far as and Deputy Mayor Schreier as well. Are we okay with that?
Yeah, sure.
Councillor Luck, are you okay with that?
Whatever you want to say.
There's a revised motion
Okay.
there, if you'd like to read it.
Just one moment, please. This is with the understanding that with our discussion that staff is going to go back and revise it. I'd move that Committee of the Whole recommends referral of the Community Investment Fund policy with amendments discussed, and directs staff to adhere to the established rules and procedures outlined in the policy under business arising at the July 15th, 2025 regular meeting.
It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Deputy Mayor Schreier. On the question, Councillor Olson.
Just on the question, I know that because of the current year time, this is time sensitive, and I was wondering if we have to wait until the third meeting in August to enact this. It's being accepted now, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, fine. It's just not that we don't have to come back and make sure all the amendments have been adjusted.
I believe that was the
Intention.
change of motion.
Yeah, okay. No,
And it
that's
was
fine.
agreed to by Councillor Luck and Deputy Mayor Schreier and Councillor Donovan, who made some of these suggestions.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, thank you. On the question, please. Motion carried 7-0. Thank you. And we have reports, item D. And looking for an adjournment and returning to closed session. Moved by Councillor Olson. All those in favor? Yes, we have to read the resolution again.
For pers-
Just one sec, Noah.
oh, sorry.
We reread. Yes, go ahead, please.
Pursuant to Section 68(1) of the Local Government Act, the public will be excluded from the committee of the whole meeting for the duration of the discussion on the items that follow.
All, are the iPads still open? Yeah. On the question, please vote.